discussion questions. I'm going to turn this over to Mary Claire so she can introduce you to our exciting guest today and enjoy the program.
Terrific. Thank you, Leslie. Welcome, everyone. This is we're delighted to have Sterling Miller back by certainly by popular demand and need as well. Sterling has done Cool Tech for in-house lawyers, or AKA Tech Review 2022, and he's done this program for both Princeton Legal Search Group as well as for ACC, and it is unusual to find lawyers that are equally as enthusiastic about the law and the use of technology. And so this morning we have a unique opportunity for Sterling to go through a series or a number of tech applications that are relevant and pertinent to in-house counsel and specifically to you as legal leaders leading and managing in-house legal teams. We, as Leslie said, we are sponsors of ACC, and David Garber, who is also with Princeton Legal Search Group, is here this morning. We are very fortunate to have this unique opportunity for the GC Forum. And I will note that we are recording the program this morning because there have been a couple of people who have asked for the recording. And I know many of you, either you have to furiously write throughout the program, or you can listen and then go back to the recording and that piece of the recording where the technology is that you may be interested in. And Leslie will certainly make the recording available. I make note of the recording because in our quote regular GC forum, we typically do not record the program so that there can be candid conversation. Since this is a tech review, it is a little bit different, meaning it's not as confidential. So, and again, many people would like to go back to the recording. So with that, what I would like to do is to introduce Sterling Miller, who we have the benefit of knowing once or twice in this program, and welcome him back. It's great to have him back. Sterling is both the CEO and senior counsel at Hilgers Graben, where he has been for about 3 years. He is also, and what you may know him as, this owner of Sterling Miller Consulting, which he has had for the last 7.5 years. And the reason you may know him through Sterling Miller Consulting is because of his popular blog, 10 Things Cool Tech for In-House Counsel. And he has been doing this Cool Tech for in-house counsel since 2015. There are other articles in the blog, but I do know that that is probably the most popular one. In addition to being with Hilgers Graben and the owner of Sterling Miller Consulting, he is also a member of the board of directors at Terrasol Superfoods. And it is one of the fastest growing organic food company. And I suspect, although it wasn't written publicly, that he has something to do with technology on that, in that role on that board. And he is also an advisory board member of TravFi for the last almost 7 years. And he is, the particular board is the company is leading technology to create beautiful itineraries with added content to travel plans. Again, we're hearing technology, technology, technology. And then previously was general counsel and corporate secretary at Market to Market, which was sold to Adobe. And Sterling will go through a number of technologies. The format is he'll introduce it, he'll give an overview, talk about some of its applications. And then Sterling, would you prefer to hold questions at the end, or would you, I'm sorry, I'm just admitting some people as I'm speaking.
Sure.
Would you prefer to hold the questions, or would you like to take them as we go through?
People want to blurt out questions, it's absolutely fine. Will not throw me off.
Right.
Or we can, if they want to save them till the end, that's fine too. Whatever,
Right.
whatever people would like to do.
All right. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Sterling, and hold on to your seats. He's going to go through a lot of technology. It's a wonderful opportunity to be exposed to a number of tech applications. Thank
All
you,
right.
Sterling.
Wow, thanks for that great introduction. You probably talking to my mom, and
Yeah.
I'm sure she wrote half of that at least. Welcome everyone. We're going to talk about cool tech for in-house legal departments 2022 version. Happy to be back here to do this again. We did it last year. You'll see a little bit of some of the same things from last year. The tech is still cool. But there's also some new stuff, and I've redone the order a little bit from what we did last time, just in case you were here last time and you don't want to see exactly the same thing. So just a little bit about me. I've been a lawyer for over 30 years. It's hard to believe, but I was there when faxes were cool technology, and I've seen a lot of change and have embraced it. I think technology is a fantastic way to be more productive, to get more done, and just provide better service to your clients. I was general counsel 3 times. I've published 5 books. The most recent one is showing the value of the legal department for the ABA. And there is a section in that book on the value of technology. And some of the things we're going to talk about today are actually chapters or parts of the book. Of course, I know a lot of you read the blog, 10 Things You Need to Know as In-House Counsel. So thank you for that. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to provide this PowerPoint as a PDF, and Mary Claire or the ACC, you're welcome to distribute it to the attendees. The links will be live then. You can click on a lot of stuff and it'll take you right to the things that I'm talking about. And as Mary Claire mentioned, I have abandoned the in-house life and gone to a law firm, which shocked me, I think, as much as it shocked some other people. But I'm with a small boutique firm called Hildreth Grayman, and I absolutely love it. I'm the CEO. I also do legal work. It's a lot of fun, which is probably the reason I stick around, because I think the practice of law needs to have a component of fun to it to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, I'd rather just be digging in ditches. There's the book, and there's a link just in case you hadn't seen it yet. So I have 2 kids in college, so please consider buying the book. You'll help them, and you'll help me. But let's start with let's go into some cool tech, and let's talk about why are we here? Because I love technology, and I imagine if you've signed up for this to listen in, that you have at least some affiliation for technology in some way. Maybe you love it, maybe you hate it, but it's important to learn, or maybe you're just coming to it for the first time, going, okay, tell me what's out there, what's useful, what's going to be helpful. And the reason that we love technology is, I think, this list. And first, it frees up time. At least in principle, it frees up time. The problem with a lot of technology is you can get absorbed in it, and you can actually find that it detracts you from the things that you want to do. So there's always a yin and a yang, and I think the positives outweigh the negatives, and primarily the ability to get more done, to be more productive, is one of the reasons we love technology. It makes us feel smarter, right? Everything looks good when it's typed up. Everything looks good when you can put slides up like this, like, wow, this looks really awesome. How did you do this? I can tell you there's a button in PowerPoint called Design, and if you put a picture in a slide, it looks like a regular picture, but if you hit Design, it gives you all kinds of options. This is one of the options. I did not create a slide with a slash through it. I would have no idea how to do that, but I'm smart enough to figure out what the buttons are. So I feel smarter already, because now I have pretty slides for you. It's fun. Most technology has a component that makes it interesting. It can save money and create value. Probably the biggest reason why, as an in-house lawyer, you would want to adopt technology, especially if it's a way that you can show the value of what you're doing. Amazingly, we talked a little bit about this before we started the presentation. It connects us with people. It allows us to communicate in ways that we never could, including this morning. In the past, I would have had to have been live in front of you in a room somewhere, or we just have a phone call and you'd be listening to me, and maybe you'd have a copy of a PowerPoint that you would be going through on your own. And I would tell you, next slide, next slide. We don't have to do that anymore. And in fact, you can be in Tokyo, you can be in South Africa, you can be in Peru, you could be here in the United States, and you can all see this presentation at the same time, and we can communicate instantly, which is probably, in my opinion, the single biggest change that I have seen in the 30 years that I've been doing this. Just absolutely amazing. And lastly, but not least, is the business expects its legal department to be technology savvy, especially if you work for a tech company, which was my experience. The three companies that I was general counsel for were all technology companies, and you have to speak the language. You have to be comfortable with the business. And if the business is technology, you better be comfortable with technology. Or even if the business isn't technology, but they just use technology, they don't expect their lawyers to be Luddites. They expect you to be able to use text, to use Slack, to use whatever it is that the company is using, and be just as sophisticated and just as comfortable with it as all the 22-year-olds that are taking over the world. I think for the better, but they're there, and you have to compete with them when it comes to technology. As I said, there's always a downside to technology, right? It can be frustrating. There are bad guys out there trying to hack in. You can be the lawyer cat guy. I feel sorry for him. He's still a meme. It can be just, there's a lot of crap out there. And, one of your jobs, I guess, as you're deciding what you want to do with technology, is sorting through all of that. So while there's a lot of good, you certainly have to recognize that there are some things that aren't always as positive. But if you do the things that you need to do, on balance, you'll find that the technology is a boon versus a bust. Okay, so as Mary Claire mentioned, I have been writing one of my blogs every year, usually around August, if I'm not too lazy, is about cool tech. And there will be links to these, but starting in 2015, I did my 10 cool tech for in-house counsel for that year. There's now quite a bit of it. What I've done is gone back and I've picked out some of the really neat things that I've liked as an in-house lawyer, and I'm going to share those with you this morning. But if you want to go back and look at some of the older posts, the technology has not become uncool. It may be outdated, but it's still cool. But let's talk about the basics, because one of the things that in-house lawyers aren't necessarily good at is, how do you evaluate technology? How do you decide what exactly it is that you want to bring into the department, that you want to use? And there are some things that you need to do to make that work, right? So I call it the technology paradox. And that is, everything looks awesome when it comes to technology, but few things are truly useful. If you've ever been to a tech show, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, you're walking down the aisles, there's all kinds of, there's lights, there's screens, there's giveaways. It's really, really, really neat. And it's easy to get caught up in that and go, I want that, I want that, I want that. But then when you bring it back, you realize that, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing, or this isn't as useful as I thought it would be. So you have to step back a little bit and not get caught up in the glitz and the glamour, and start with some basics. And there's a checklist here that I've put together. And start with, what problem am I trying to solve? It may be a really big problem, so it's gonna take a big technology solution, or it may be something really simple, and all it's gonna take is an app or something that I can add to my Chrome, my browser extension. What is my manual process, right? I'm using technology generally to replace something I'm doing manually. So have I mapped out what I'm doing manually, and then how will that technology take away those manual steps, or if it doesn't, is it really worthwhile, right? Can it replace it? What's the cost, and can I afford it? It's easy to get caught up with, I want this, but when it comes to budget time, the CFO may be saying, no way, Sterling, that ain't happening this year. So you have to think about that. Good old cost benefit analysis, return on investment. If I do this, what am I getting back from the technology? Am I saving time? Am I saving money? Am I getting more things done? So I'm creating money, maybe getting more contracts done. How am I going to measure that and bring it down to something that I can show the business why, and myself, why this is actually worth doing? And then lastly, and truly importantly, if I'm going to add anything significant, do I have the support of upper management, the CTO, the CFO, maybe the CEO. So they're going, yeah, we think this is something valuable for the department because it will help them serve the company better. Therefore, we're on board. Companies use technology all the time. They may not necessarily know what the legal technology does, but if you can get them to agree with you that it's worthwhile and it's worth having, then you're going to have an easier time with the budget. And you're also going to get the resources that you need to get it implemented. Certainly if it's a big project. So that's step one, right? Going through what you need and why you need it. Step two, once you've identified what you want, you got your wallet out, you're ready to lay some cash on the barrelhead. There's some things that you need to do. Now, not every piece of technology needs this type of effort, but if it's anything of size or significance, if you don't do this, you are basically asking to fail. And the one thing about failed technology is it costs you the same whether you use it or not. And there's nothing more frustrating than going onto your computer every morning and seeing that technology that, God, I hate that. I don't want to use that. That's a piece of junk. Can't believe we bought it. Don't want to be in that position. I have been in that position. So I have made all the mistakes that I'm talking about, but I've learned from them, and I'm sharing with you some of the things that I think you'll find really helpful as you go forward. So a requirements document, and this doesn't have to be 20 pages. It could be 1 page. It can even be an email where you've just written down in bullet form. These are the things I'm looking for. What must the technology have? What's the core problem I'm trying to solve, and what is this technology going to have to do to help me solve it? Are there some should haves? Like, it would be nice to have this. The does and does not. It does this, but it doesn't do this. So you want to make sure you're thinking through the things that it doesn't do, because you don't want to give anyone, certainly in the department or yourself or people that you've kind of got to buy in that this is worthwhile, talking about things that when it gets set up, it actually doesn't do. So one of the things that I did was create a list. You see this a lot if you work for a technology company. It's called does not, and just a list of things. So that's really helpful. What systems must it connect to? Is it going to have to connect to your email server? Is it going to have to connect to some servers on premise? Is it completely in the cloud? Is it going to have a firewall? All kinds of things you have to think through to make sure that you can use it, and you can use it in a way that makes sense, and most importantly, that it's safe for you to use, right? So you're not going to introduce any viruses or have a backdoor for the bad guys to get into the company. That's what the IT department is really going to be wanting to know. What is their support? Can it scale, right? Are you going to have people there 24/7 to help you if there's a problem? Or it only works if you have 2 people, but if you scale this to 20 people, it falls apart. You need to be thinking about those things. You always want to look at more than one product. Don't fall in love with your first date, right? You want to take a look at all the different things out there, narrow that list down to 2 or 3, and then really go deep on those 2 or 3 and figure out, what is it that I want? One of the things, and this is probably the hardest part about buying technology, is this established versus nascent. It's really easy to default to the companies that have been around for 15 or 20 years. And I get it. They've done it. And it's a pretty safe bet. Nascent technology companies, right? They're here today and they're just starting up, but they don't have a long track record. At some point, you kind of have to figure out, do I want to go with the old established, or maybe there's something new out there? But do you want to be number 1 or number 2 on the list to try it? Because the odds of failing are slightly higher, but the benefits of the new technology, the nascent technology, may be much higher. So there's a risk reward analysis you're going to have to do. So don't necessarily eliminate the new technologies, but you want to spend more time, I think, evaluating them than maybe if you're going with someone who's been around for a long time. If you're going to buy something to solve a problem, it has to solve that problem today. Never rely on that's going to be in the next release, because I can tell you that next release may never happen. So it needs to solve your problem today. We talked about partnering with the CTO, the CFO, your money, your technology people. Procurement. In a lot of companies, procurement doesn't sit in the legal department, it sits in finance, or it sits somewhere separately. If you've ever negotiated a technology contract for yourself, it is extremely hard to do. Lawyers generally tend to be really bad at negotiating for themselves. I loved to turn it over to the procurement department. I would say, this is what I want. You go get the deal done. And then they would take care of, all the, I think I lost my camera there. Sorry about that. There we go. They would take care of all the details. They would negotiate the price. I wouldn't have to do that. All I had to worry about was the implementation and all the other stuff. And if it's a big enough piece of technology, consider creating a steering committee. There's a change management process. There's user acceptance. If you're implementing let's say a contract management system, right? And it's not only the legal department that's going to use it, but maybe it's procurement is going to use it. Maybe people in sales are going to use it. Other people in the company are going to use it. You don't just want to show up one day and go, hey, contract management system, here you go, have at it. You need to spend some time before that technology goes live, figuring out, how am I going to train people? How am I going to get them excited about using it? And then most importantly, having users test it out before it goes live, making sure it does the things that it needs to do, it works the way you think it's going to work. And if there are changes that need to be made to adapt to your business, that those things are being considered. So again, not every project requires this, but if you're going to go in deep, you're going to go in big, go in like you're really implementing technology and not like lawyers tend to do. Yeah, just get it set up. I'll have someone show me how to use it and I'll be ready to go. You can do that, but I can tell you the odds of failing are much higher if you take that path. Okay, the core technology. So in my in-house legal departments, I figured there are several pieces of technology that we had to have, and this is my list. Now, you may not have them all, you may not have the budget for all of them, and that's okay. But this is kind of where I'm not really going to get anything else until I get these, unless it's some of the things we're going to talk about later, which are those easy kind of ones and twosy pieces of technology that are more individualized than legal department wide. I need an e-billing system. I need a contract management system. I need some type of document management system. That could be SharePoint, that could be Box or Dropbox, but I need something like that. If my business is at all at scale, I need some type of system to manage the governance, the risk, and the compliance obligations. If I'm required to do KPIs, which almost all legal departments are getting pulled into that, how am I going to get that data? There are lots of business intelligence tools out there that can help you not only pull the data, slice and dice it, and then more importantly, present it in a way that looks really good, but also tells a story in pictures and graphs and charts, which is what the business wants to see. They don't want to see you just talking to it or in a 20-page memo. They want a dashboard, right? They want pie charts, they want colors. Those types of tools can help you do that. If you're not using electronic signatures, you're way behind Fred Flintstone. I'm telling you, you got to be George Jetson. That is almost a must-have. If you've ever had to try to get a contract signed and your boss is halfway around the world and you're trying to send it to him, have him wet or her wet signature and then scan it back to you or take a picture of it. If you have an e-signature system, you don't have to worry about any of that. And then of course, what kind of research and resource tools am I going to have for the legal department? So this is your list, right? So what we talked about before is this is how you evaluate it, but these are the things I think all legal departments should be evaluating and deciding if and how they're going to implement in the legal department. There are some guides out there. This is a set of guides that I have found really useful. This Legal Tech Publishing Guides, there's 6 or 7 of them. There's a link here that you'll have. It'll walk you through all kinds of different technology. There are other guides out there. I just have found these guides to be really useful. So if there's a place that you can go to get basically neutral evaluations of different types of technology. I didn't realize how bad blue on blue was going to be, but there you go. Go see it live. I mentioned this earlier. There are tech shows out there. Probably the best is the annual ABA Tech Show. They just finished it. I pretty sure it's in New York every year, other than COVID years, but it's really amazing. All the right vendors are there, incredible presentations. So if you really, really are into technology and you need something, that's the tech show to go to. The ACC annual meeting, I've spoken at those before. An incredible array of vendors are there, willing to show you and walk you through how their tools work. CLOC, which is legal operations, they have a global institute. I'm going to be speaking at that later this year. I believe it's actually in May, so just a month away. In Las Vegas. Legal Accelerators, another place. So these are all links. There are others out there, but finding a good tech show or place where you can go to see things actually function is really critical, especially if the technology is at all big enough. Okay, that was a lot around kind of the big principles of technology, the big technology, where to go see the technology. And now I'm going to talk about some of the technology that I really find useful and that I use pretty much on an everyday basis. My one single piece of cool technology is Practical Law. If you're in an in-house legal department, and I believe most of you here are, if you don't have Practical Law, you're way behind the curve. It is a spectacular tool for in-house lawyers. It has all kinds of great templates, checklists, forms, research. I know I sound like I'm hyping. I work for Practical Law. I will caution you with this. I do write for Thomson Reuters, and some of the things I write about are Practical Law, but they found me because I have touted Practical Law since one of my very first blogs in 2014. So I really believe in it. It is expensive, so I'll grant you that. If you have Lexis or Nexus, they have a similar tool called Practical Guidance. I've not used that. And then Bloomberg has a similar tool. They just haven't given it a name yet. So there are alternatives out there. I still come back to Practical Law being superior to all of those. But if this is you, great, Sterling. Thanks for that. But hey, I can't afford that. Are there any other options out there? Yes, there are. Again, apologize for the blue, blue on blue. I didn't realize it looks so different when I was doing this through the walkthrough. But here in very faint blue are links to free or very, very low cost technology that will give you some of the things that you can get in a Practical Law. Lexology.com is one of my favorites. They take all of those great big law alerts, client alerts, and other tools, and they bring them all in one place. You can get just US, you can do international, you can pick subject matter. You get this in your email box every day. It's free. I use this every day. I always find something of use through Lexology.com. They have paid versions, like Lexology Pro or getting the deal through. If you want to spend a little bit of money, not as expensive as Practical Law by any means, but not free. There are some others here. Good friends at Harvard have come through with the free legal resources in the United States and international. So if you click on these links, they have dozens of links to free resources. Google, of course, always showing up with something free. Business in a Box, maybe the dumbest name of all time, but I tell you, for $200, actually $199, I have this, tons of forms, tons of templates. They're really well done. They're not perfect, so they're not quite as detailed or as good as the ones on Practical Law. But I tell you, if you need some terms of use for a website, they have them. They're really good. You're going to supplement them, but for $200, you can't beat it. That's a great resource. If you have HR issues, the Society for Human Resource Management has a lot of resources. So does Expert HR. I've left out on this list, I see the ACC. I should mention that. If you're a member of the ACC, do not overlook the resources that they have available, their data packs, their toolkits. There's an amazing amount of just excellent and outstanding templates and resources available on the ACC website. And Pace University has a low-cost guide to legal search. So you don't have to spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars to get some really good resources for your legal department. There's a lot of stuff out there if you dig around that is really helpful and very low cost. Oh, and I mentioned YouTube. I'm going to come back to YouTube in a few slides, but that's another really great resource as well. All right, so let's looking at the time here. Let's go through some of the cool tech. I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. So, but we're going to do, as Mary Claire mentioned, I'm going to show you some cool tech, talk a little bit about it, why I think it's cool, and hopefully you'll find at least one or two things that you really find useful from this presentation. So why do I call this cool tech? When I use my blog for cool tech, I tend not to talk about the really big pieces of technology that are going to require an implementation plan or whatever. I try to find things that are low cost, that are really useful, that you can just download or buy on Amazon or whatever and use it right now, and without a lot of money and without a lot of effort. And I think that is probably where you find the most value from technology on a day-to-day basis. The cost of failure is minimal. If you use an extension on your browser and it doesn't work, you just take it off, right? Probably cost you nothing, or maybe it was $1 or $2 a month. You just stop paying for it. So again, failing is not really that big of a deal, unlike big technology. So here are some of my favorite pieces of technology. Grammarly. I do a lot of writing, and spell check on Word is good. Grammarly is better. There is a free version that I use. I don't use the paid version, but this is an extension. It sits on your browser, or you can upload it into Office 365, or if you use Office as a software loaded onto your laptop. It becomes an extension in Word. And what it does is it just follows along as you write, and it is a tremendous way of correcting your grammar, which I still need after 30 years. It catches things spell check doesn't catch, which is amazing to me, because spell check is pretty good. And it works on your social media posts. So if I'm writing for LinkedIn, if I have it in my browser, it will search that. It'll check Slack, it'll check Teams. So when you're sending messages, you're not sending things with spelling errors or grammatical errors. I love it. I think it is incredibly useful. It is one of my favorite tools. Literally use it every day. I will caution you though, like with everything, don't over rely on technology. Sometimes the recommendations aren't right. You'll look at it and you go, that doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right. So they're suggestions. They're not always hard rules. So keep that in mind as you go through. But I think if you do nothing else today, but go get Grammarly and download it, I think you'll find by this time next week that you go, wow, that was really useful. That was a useful hour of my time because I found Grammarly.
Sterling, if I could just add that when you talk about Grammarly, the last time there was a lawyer, no names, who used Grammarly, and there is, if you get the paid version, there is a section or a click off for business writing. So for what this person found was that for lawyers where they're used to writing more lawyerly, that this was an opportunity to modify their writing style to be more business oriented.
Yep, that's a great point. You're absolutely right. And one of the things that it does, again, I don't use it. I have tried it, but it's like if you use the same word several times, for example, and you don't necessarily pay attention to it, it'll find that and suggest, another word. It's like a walking thesaurus in a way, which makes your writing better, right? You're not just spamming them with the same word, but great point. If you find yourself getting distracted with technology, there is this really great browser extension called Stay Focused. And what Stay Focused does is it just helps you limit the amount of time you're going to spend on YouTube or on ESPN or Facebook or whatever. You can set rules like I'm only allowed to do this, for 45 minutes between these time frames, and when it's used up, basically it's blocked. So it kind of forces you to stay focused on the task at hand, and it's easy, it's free, It's perfect if you have a big project, right? You don't have to turn it on every day, but if there's something that you really want to focus on, like I need to not get distracted for 3 hours, it's a great tool to turn on and keep you from just wandering off to something that's now going to take you down a rabbit hole, and you're going to find out that an hour's been you've wasted an hour checking out spring training for the Cubs, and you should have been working on your project. So consider Stay Focused. This is one of my favorite tools, Nimbus Screen Capture. It's free. This allows you to capture screenshots from any website, tools that you're using. Virtually anything on your screen you can capture in either a clip that you can scroll. So if you want to try to capture an entire web page, you can go below the fold, as they say. You can just scroll all the way down. You can record videos of what you're doing. So if you want to show a video of here's how you do this, showing someone the process, it's so much better than print screen, which is what I used to use. And then I would try to figure out how to move print screen into a PDF, and then I would snapshot the PDF. And what you generally get is kind of this blurry, mostly readable picture with Nimbus. All the screenshots that I'm using today, including this one, I'd use Nimbus for. Just went to the website, put, circled whatever it is I wanted to show, hit click, and then get a really high quality image that I can share in a PowerPoint just like this. It works great. It's free. Highly recommend it. Kugel. Lawyers generally like to think linearly, right? So A, B, C, D, but that's not necessarily the way the world works. And that's not the way problems necessarily present themselves. And if you've ever seen something called a mind map, where you have all kinds of loops and branches where things are, well, if this happens, you have this option, or here, it's a little bit like a decision tree, but not quite. Kugel lets you create those and helps you think through problems, or even present problems in a way, in a PowerPoint or however, in a document, that are non-linear. And a lot of times that's really helpful for the business. A lot of times that's just really helpful for you to try to solve problems when you start to think about them in different ways, where they're kind of messy and they're overlapping. And you can download Kugel, and it'll allow you to create these tools. You can collaborate with other people. You can work on it together. So it's really neat, and it's really kind of fun to see what you can come up with when you're trying to solve problems in a way that just doesn't go straight down the line. So consider Kugel for some cool tech. I used to have incredibly poor internet reception around our house. I'm at our house now in Texas. And by law in Texas, all houses have to be very big, sorry. And so you can be in a room far away from your internet source. And I used to have tons of trouble. I tried all kinds of different tools to try to extend the internet signal. I finally came across, this is from Amazon, the Eero product. I know there are other products out there. I don't mean to bash them. All I can tell you is this works, and it works great. And I just got the basic system. They have several different models, but for under $200, I got 3 of these modules. You plug one in to the internet, and then you place the other 2 somewhere in your house. And I tell you, I've not had a single problem with internet signal, and it's just as strong as if I was in the same room, with where the source is, with the internet. So if you're having problems working at home, getting signal, this is certainly a potential solution for you. AnyDo. If you are a to-do list user, I'm not a big fan of long to-do lists. I like short to-do lists of 3. That could be a whole nother presentation. But I like to write things out on paper because I'm old. But if you're not, and you like technology to create to-do lists, I do have this. It works pretty well. I use this kind of to keep track of a lot of different things. But this is a really cool to-do list tool that you can have on your phone, your iPad, even on your computer. There's a tutorial for it to show you how to use it. I have a click here. It's pretty powerful. You can connect it with your family. You can have different to-do lists, one for work, one for all your personal stuff, and it'll connect to other members of your family so you know what they're doing, they know what you're doing. It works really well. It's really slick. It has some really cool artificial intelligence baked in. So if you're looking for that next to-do list technology, try AnyDo. I think you'll find that it's really, really useful.
Great name.
Yeah, it is. It really is. If you have lots of email and you're trying to manage your email inbox, again, another presentation that we could do. This is artificial intelligence email management. You can load this onto into your email. Works with Google, works with Outlook. You can prioritize the emails from real people, so not the ones that you get from spammy or whatever. It'll figure that out and it'll put those at the top. It has great search capabilities, reminders. You could snooze emails. So one of the things I think we all do with emails, like, man, that's important, I'm going to get back to it, and it starts to fall to the bottom of your email list, which is ever growing. With this snooze feature, you can snooze it and say, I want to see this again in 2 days. And all next thing you know, it pops back up and it's number one on your email list or wherever you've put it to come back in. You can do signatures with it. There's a version for Teams. You can collaborate on drafting emails. That's not normally what we do, but sometimes it is useful, especially it's a really important email and maybe there's someone senior who's going to help you draft that email because it's going to go to the board, it's going to go to the CEO. And you can also have emails that you can discuss privately without sharing them with everybody when you're doing that Teams, that collaboration. So you can limit, even though you can put it into a Teams channel, you can limit it, even within that channel, who can see the email. So there are some safety measures built in. I am using this right now, the Anker Power Conference speakerphone. This is a great speakerphone. It's wireless, right? It works with Bluetooth. I can use it on my phone. I can use it on my computer if I have Bluetooth on my computer. It works great with Zoom, which is what we're doing here, Teams, whatever. It has built-in noise suppression. If you work from home most of the time, which I do now, you know that Tuesdays and Wednesdays are lawn care day, at least in my neighborhood. So there's always someone with a power blower or a lawnmower. This pretty much wipes out most of that noise, picks up really just my voice and eliminates a lot of the background noise. So if you're looking for a speakerphone, this is a really great one to check out. It's not free, but it's not that expensive either. If you already have something that you're happy with, or you're just looking for a way to get rid of that noise, Krisp is an artificial intelligence tool that you can download, and it basically does the same thing as that noise suppression I was talking about with the Anker speakerphone. It eliminates a ton of background noise incredibly well. You might hear it, but I can guarantee you that if you're using Krisp, you don't have to use it all the time, but if you do turn it on, the people that are listening to you, they're not hearing anything other than just you speaking. It's really amazing. Free, doesn't cost anything. So if you're looking for a way to eliminate some noise, one button, no noise is their tagline. I have just a couple more, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. I use these. I used to be a wired headphones person, right? I have my iPhone and the cords. I couldn't imagine using these. Someone gave me this set for Christmas. My family gave me this set for Christmas. Works great. You can do phone calls in it. It also, you can use it on an airplane. If you used to have those big Bose silent headphones, this works just as well to eliminate most of that background noise if you're traveling. The quality of the sound is amazing, from the bass all the way up to the treble. The phone calls are great. Now this is my go-to. The only thing I will use for any type of headphones are my Jabra wireless buds with the noise canceling feature. They're not free, but they're not as expensive as earbuds for Apple, but they work. I think they work better. Quite frankly, I've tried earbuds. I think these are better. Just a couple more. This is another way to organize your email. If you're like me, I'll just mention the one feature here that I really like is I save things into folders. I have hundreds and hundreds of folders. And I used to have to spend a lot of time figuring out which folder. When I implemented Simply File, it knows, it's amazing. It knows which folder I want to put that email into 90% of the time, and it'll just automatically, when I click the button, send it to the right folder. So if you're someone who likes folders, but you don't want to spend time moving things over all day, this is a great tool. There are other things that it does. Here's a list here, but I'm going to try to do the last couple here and then get to the questions. But check that out. Another thing I just found. So when I got the new book published, one of the things that is challenging is if you live outside of the US or Canada, it's hard to get the book. It's not an ebook yet. And really the only way to get it, unfortunately, is for me to send it to you. And if you've ever sent something international from the US Postal Service, you know, it's a bit of a crapshoot. You also have to go and wait in line. So I was looking, and it's pretty expensive. And I was looking for a way, is there another way to do this that isn't as expensive? And I found these two sites, Easy Ship. And again, there's a yellow thing over here on the right. That's pirateship.com. Sorry, it's not coming through very well. These are free services that get you incredible discounts on UPS, on FedEx, DHL, other shipping tools. I have been using this now for the last month, and I have come to the realization that I have been a sap, because I would go to UPS and pay double what I'm paying by using this to ship something, you know, even in the United States. So only suckers pay retail. I guess that is true. Check these out. There are other sources. I don't want to say these are the only two, but I have found them to be really, really tremendous values. They're free. They work great. And I'm now shipping things all over the world, South Korea, India, the UK, and I get tracking numbers, and it works great. So highly recommend those services. I think this is the last one, and we'll go into the question. Sendaware is a new tool. I know we've all had this problem where autofill, you're not paying attention to autofill, and that email goes out and you go, oh crap, it shouldn't have gone to, you know, Joe, I meant Jane. And you know that the retrieve feature in Outlook doesn't really retrieve anything. I think they're working on that, so it actually pulls the email back, but they're not there yet. So this is a way of double checking that email before it goes out. These are the right people that you want to send it to. So before you click send, it's going to stop and get a prompt to make sure that you have the right people in the email, which can save you a lot of embarrassment. I don't know if it can cost you millions of dollars like they're touting here, but I know it will save you certainly a lot of embarrassment. And if it's a privileged email, you know, a lot of pain for having to deal with maybe undoing the privilege by sending it to someone who shouldn't have been on the loop. Lastly, I mentioned YouTube. If I have a technology problem, the first place I go is YouTube to try to solve it. I had trouble with my printer the other day. I could call our tech support people, but I can tell you it's going to take a while. It's going to be painful. For me, sometimes it's easier just to go to YouTube, type in exactly what my problem is, and I shouldn't be amazed, but I'm always amazed that something's going to pop up, a tutorial from someone, maybe the manufacturer, or maybe just an influencer who's going to say, here's how you fix it, and it fixes the problem. I do this with all kinds of problems, and even when I want to learn things. When I learned how to read a P&L and a balance sheet and a cash flow statement, you know, I didn't learn that in a classroom. I went to YouTube and I found some tutorials from college professors on how to do that, completely free. Learned how to do it. I could always go back and watch it again anytime. I could do more advanced tutorials if I found it interesting. So consider or reconsider the value of YouTube, not just as a place to watch, you know, videos of people getting hit in the head with something or challenges. There's a lot of great content from lawyers and from technology providers that will be really, really useful. And I think, this is the last thing. I mentioned the tech show. And there's a link to this over here, where it says 60 and 60 off to the right. The last thing they do at the ABA Tech Show is they have a panel. They do 60 apps in 60 minutes. It is amazing. It is so much fun. It is one of the highlights of the show. The panel here does this every year. You can get a copy of the most current one just by clicking on this link, and you'll find an amazing amount of technology, even more than we went through today. So if you're interested in more cool tech, there's the place where you can go. And with that, we have 7 minutes, it looks like. If you want to reach out to me separately, there's some email addresses. You can check out the blog. I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Big fan of LinkedIn. And if you want to go deeper on some of the basics, there's a link to the blog that I wrote on buying and implementing legal tech. And with that, I'm going to shut up and let you ask some questions.
Elise, it looks like you unmuted. Are you interested? There you go.
Yes, I apologize to people on the phone. I'm in the car, so I apologize for background noise. Thank you for an excellent presentation. Probably one of the highlights of my year in terms of the content. Really, just so much practical info. First question. My client is a financial services institution. I'm happy to report we are not engaged in very much litigation. So for that reason, I do not have any kind of e-discovery tech tool that I've subscribed to. Any comments on something that might be available, low cost or free?
I am not aware of free. I think let's do this. There are some. I would want to look at it. If you send me an email
Sure.
offline, then I'll come back to you with some recommendations.
Second question is any comments on Law 360?
Oh,
really.
Yeah, I have a subscription. I read it every day. I think the content is really good. I probably oversubscribe to the different ones. And they do have some really interesting articles. It's a lot though, but I like it's not free. I like Lexology better, quite frankly, and it's free.
You like what better?
Lexology.com.
Lexology, yes, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions?
Sterling, I have a question. So wondering if you have a recommendation, if there's any fairly accurate voice technology recognition software. I find myself during the course of a day, lots of meetings, Zoom meetings, I'm constantly write things down. I'm old school, I've got it on a pad, and I want to then capture that in a Word document or somewhere in my system. I can speak a whole lot faster than I can type. So is there something that where if I wanted to get something into our system, have it electronic, that I could literally dictate it and have it recognized and have it fairly accurate?
Yeah, Dragon, Naturally Speaking, is a software you want to get. If you just look up Dragon dictation on Google, it'll take you to their site. We talked about it last year. It's really good. I used some of the first versions, which weren't really good, but they have really figured out how to make it good. So Dragon, Naturally Speaking, is the technology you want to try out.
Great.
Thank you.
John Hoffman has a question, and then there's a question in chat, but John, go ahead.
This is more of an observation than a question.
Okay.
One of the things that we have been successful in doing is when we negotiate for some of the new tech, to really push as hard as possible on negotiating for provisions for additional training, and also negotiating for provisions for the potential to particularize or customize some of the tech that we're getting, and resources on the tech company's end. And that's helped a lot. I find that it's hard to get the tech off the shelf without getting some particularization. And so we have spent a fair amount of time trying to extract concessions from the vendor in terms of time and effort made to particularize some of the technology for us.
Yeah, that's very true. We had we did a contract management system when I was at Marketo, and we used Conga to do that, and we did exactly that. And that was one of the reasons why we picked them, is they were willing to customize, and they were willing to do that training that you didn't necessarily get with some of the systems that were basically take it or leave it out of the box. So it depends on your need. It depends on the company and your budget to some extent too. We had some money to spend, which was nice.
Good. Yvonne, why don't you go ahead, and then we'll go into the chat.
Sure. Thanks, Marita. Yes, Sterling, I can just second the first questioner's comments. A fantastic
Thank you.
webinar. And that's first one for me, I must admit. So this question may be kind of naive, but so far my experience with tech implementation was that you always, and we don't have a choice in my company, is my impression, you need IT to sign up for it. So my question is, what's the experience by you or any other one in the team who has a company with firewalls, VPN, to simply allow you to download any of those apps, which I would love to do. My guess is the moment I tried, I said, you don't have any administrator privileges, contact your IT department, and then you're getting into discussion, do you need it, how to order it, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So what's the experience there? Is there a difference from what you see?
It depends on each company, and it depends on the tools that they have. What I did early is I made a friend in the IT department, and they became, someone that I could go to and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Is there a way that we can get this done? And I found that if you have a relationship versus you're just sending something to Jira or whatever the way is you put a request in, it's much easier to get them to actually consider it and think about what is it that the legal department needs, why do they need it, and how do we allow them to get around the firewall, how do we allow them to download it. Now they may want to look at it, they may want to play with it, but I think number one, if those are the hoops, you need to jump through them. The only alternative would be, I guess, if you had your own personal laptop or computer at home, and then you have to balance, am I pulling in work documents to my home computer, which now makes my home computer subject to discovery, et cetera. So there are some downsides to doing that, but I would play by the rules, number one, but I would also ask the person, hey, can we get on the phone? Can I give you a demo of this? Can we talk about this? So they're not just seeing it and making that yes or no decision without any context or background. That's my experience, but I have dealt with that, and it's painful.
Yep.
Thank you. The question in chat is thoughts on contract management software, Sterling.
Love it. If you want, if you're looking for recommendations, if you want to send me an email, I'm happy to make some recommendations on tools that I think are really good. There are two things about contract management. One is here today. One I think is on the verge. So contract management generally, I think has a lot of value, not only in helping you store contracts and manage the deadlines, the renewals, the obligations, which is incredibly valuable, but also allows you to create the contracts. So if you have a system that allows you to store your templates, maybe you have a clause library you can move. What we did is we went beyond that. We actually had a system where the business, as long as they stayed within the library and they used these clauses, they could create their own contracts, and they never had to come to legal. If they didn't, if those clauses were never changed, if you just used our standard templates, it just went through the e-signature process. They got signed, it got stored, we got a copy. We knew what was going on, but we did not get involved. The thing that's coming, and the thing that I'm really excited about, are contract management tools that will start to do the redlining process for the lawyers. And by that, I mean, it'll take customer paper, and it will redline it to the your checklist, your rules, what your company will accept. It'll do that first redline for you. Or if customers are redlining your paper, it will review those red lines and it will tell you, you can accept this one needs work, this is how it should read. It's not, I've seen people tout it. I haven't really seen it work the way I think it needs to work, but I can tell you that they're really close. And when they do that, think about the time savings. If you can have the first red line done by an artificial intelligence system, and then you can have your lawyers work on refining kind of that initial, what would have taken hours and hours. Now they're focused on the things that really matter. When they get to that point, man, that's going to be awesome. That's nirvana. But there are really great systems here, and I'm happy to make some recommendations if you want them.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone. There is a number of responses in the chat saying, awesome, terrific program, excellent information. Sterling, you've done it again. You have got used an hour to its fullest capacity.
I just didn't want to suck, so hopefully
Well,
hopefully I got that.
I think you blew that one out of the water.
Okay, well,
Thank
good.
you for, yeah, tremendous program. There's one other book that Sterling has written that I am the proud owner of, that I think should be shared with everyone. With all of your free time that you will have with this technology, you will have time for more cooking. And
Ah,
Sterling has written a cookbook called
That is true.
The Slow Cooker Savant, Become a Dinner Hero 52 Weeks of the Year.
that is
So
true.
with that, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the questions. And wow, this is just chock full of information and resources. And as indicated, Leslie will distribute the PDF, which will have the links. And as Sterling has indicated, feel free to click on them. There's more, even more information for you in the presentation. So thank you, everyone. On behalf of Princeton Legal Search Group, we're delighted that you're here this morning, and a very special thank you to Sterling Miller. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.